motivated, Cortez ordered the ships that had carried them to this land to be burned. Cortez understood the power that only true commitment can bring. His conquistadores were now truly committed to their mission. Today, Rick Phillips will give an 8 to 10 minute speech on the power of commitment in his own life. Please welcome Rick Phillips to the power of commitment.
Fellow Toastmasters, welcome guests. There is one power in life that we have absolute control over, and this power can accomplish amazing things. The power of commitment. That means we have to be resilient when we're confronted with obstacles. We have a choice. We can stop our progress towards whatever project or goal we have, or we can continue on despite the obstacles and finish what we start. In 2004, I was working as a project leader for General Dynamics, and I was traveling all over the world to military installations, installing hardware, installing software, leading my team. And I was working very long hours, so we would be gone sometimes 30 or 40 days. And while I was back home, I was leading the software development team. And the software development team worked long hours. So I was working a lot of evenings and weekends. And I came up with this great idea that in all my spare time, I'm going to start writing some novels. I wanted to write a science fiction novel. In fact, I wanted to write a series of science fiction novels. And I figured all I've got to do is I'd take a little bit of time out of an evening here, an evening there, a weekend here, and over the course of a couple of years, I'll finish that novel, I'll publish it, it'll start selling, and then I'll start work on the second novel in the series. And by keeping doing that, I thought, I think I can do this. I've read science fiction, I know science fiction, I think I can tell a good story in science fiction. And I started doing that. So I was carving out a little time here, a little bit here, a little bit here, and over the course of a few weeks, I started to see, hey, this is working, I've got content coming in. And then I went back and read what I already read. And I was not satisfied with it. I decided, okay, I've just got to fix this. And so I started working on it. I reworked it, and I reworked it, and I tried a little bit more. And I built up a little more content. And then I decided, well, I think I'm better now. I should rework this whole thing all over again. And I went back and I reworked it. I just wasn't quite happy with it, and I tuned it up. And I started to do a little bit more work on it. And I realized, I'm tired. I'm not adding any more tonight. And I got into this vicious cycle where I was so self-critical that it ground my progress to a halt. And then one day, as I'm sitting in front of my computer, once again, trying to tune up what I've written, my wife Carol came up and walked up to me and leaned in and said, Rick, finish the damn book. I thought about that. And the realization came to me that I am wimping out on this project. I'm looking for an excuse to quit. That's why I'm being so self-critical. Of course, a first draft, the whole finished first draft is an ugly baby. That's the definition of a first draft. But you can't get to the final product if you don't finish what you start. I went back, and from that point on, I started working on a pretty regular schedule. And over the course of 2 years, I finished that first book. I edited it myself, and then I had a professional editor edit it. And so I had the manuscript ready for publication. I then started in on the second novel. But I had a problem. And my problem was, I don't know how to get this thing published. But they had a book on that. And I read that book. They had a bunch of them, but I picked one. I read that book, and it said, do not send your manuscript directly to the publishing house. They'll throw it right in the trash. Instead, find yourself an agent at a big agency that has connections and send them your manuscript. And you need to format it like this. So I did that. I formatted the manuscript. I decided, because they also have this little word of caution, you might experience some rejection. With that in mind, I sent it to every literary agency I could find in New York, and there were a lot of them. I just mailed that puppy out, formatted right. Anyone in here want to take a guess how many responses I got back?
0.
0. The big nothing. And that told me one thing. That book I read is just full of it. I should send this thing directly out to the publisher. So I did that. Boom, 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 boom. Crickets. I didn't hear anything. Well, this is frustrating. Now I'm down to plan C. And plan C is a costly plan, which is I'm going to pay a publisher to publish some books for me, and I had to order 2,000 copies in advance, which put a big hurt on my wallet. I did that though, and I was so pleased when the boxes came in because they were beautiful. The covers were beautiful, the books were wonderfully done. And I had 2,000 beautiful books sitting in my garage because I couldn't sell them. I went to Barnes & Noble, and Barnes & Noble says, no. We only take books from major publishers. I could get them into some little mom and pop stores like Changing Hands. But I was startled to discover that they didn't put my book up with J.K. Rowling's in the front window. Mine was back on a little shelf back there, and sales were very small. But I was almost done with my next novel. And then I discovered there was this thing called Amazon Kindle. You could upload your book for free to Amazon. It had to be formatted right. Then they would publish it for free. You could set your own price, and you can make 70% royalties, which is big. Well, I did that, and I started selling a few dozen copies a month, mainly friends and family. But I finished the second novel. The second novel I took and I published that one, and I started working on my third novel. Well, a funny thing happened in September of 2010. For the first time, I sold more than 1,000 copies in a month. And I was thinking, oh, I hope that is not a fluke. But in October, I sold 3,000. In November, I sold 8,000. In December, I sold 14,000 copies in a month. And we were having a Merry Christmas. January of 2011, I sold 22,000 copies in a month. I had the #1 and #2 best-selling science fiction novels on all of Amazon. And just like that, I had an agent. I had a publisher. Since that time, I've published 13 novels. I just finished the 14th. And I've sold more than 1 million copies on Amazon.
Wow.
You know where that came from? Rick, finish the damn book. That was the best advice I ever got, but it got me to thinking that whether we're working on a book like I was, or a series of books, whatever you're doing, you cannot possibly succeed if you do not finish the project. Whatever that is. The only path to success is through finishing what you start. And by doing that, wonderful things happen. It's like nothing was happening for me, nothing was happening. All at once, it's as if the universe just said, whoa, I can't stop this guy. I'm gonna get out of his way and go find some other poor fool to stop. The fellow Toastmasters, welcome guests. This is a power everybody has complete control of. The power of commitment, the power to finish what you start. And guess what? You pay a price if you don't do that. Because if you stop something you intended to finish, you're gonna have this diminished self-image because you just lied to yourself. You were not impeccable with your word to yourself. And every time you lie to yourself, and that just lowers your self-image and your capabilities by a notch. I encourage everyone to exercise this power. Make your goals, put your plan together, finish what you start, and who knows, you might unleash the millionaire inside you. Thank you.